What do you think about sleep trackers and those wearables now, and people like measure every night how much they slept and how much was REM sleep, etc. I mean, what about that?
For anyone who's like struggling with sleep, not sleeping well, or not feeling like you're not getting enough sleep or good quality sleep, tracking it is tricky. It's more likely just going to lead to more stress, less sleep, and feeling less refreshed. Again, because of this effortless nature of sleep, it thrives on nothing. And what I want to add to that is some people ask, like, well, don't we need this amount of REM sleep or deep sleep or slow wave sleep to feel refreshed? And when I was working as a sleep doctor, I used to read sleep studies, which is like, I used to interpret this raw data from EEG, right? And what was so interesting was that you could have the most beautiful sleep architecture, like the textbook sleep, fast sleep onset, like big chunks of deep sleep in the beginning, cycles of REM and everything was just perfect. And then you like meet the person, like, how did you sleep that night? And they're like, awful. I slept terrible. And the complete opposite. You had this typically elderly person who had like 5 hours of fragmented sleep, like no REM sleep, no deep sleep. And you're like, how did you sleep? And they're like, I slept great. That always stays with me because it shows that like our experience of sleep, it has nothing to do with those REM percentages or cycles or anything like that. It is much more to do with um, how we perceive sleep and how we think about sleep and how we think about our day. Like we can just to sneak in one more little example that is like, or one little thought here is that a lot of people have the idea that if I just sleep more in general, I will feel more refreshed. But that often is not true. And if we think about, so far we've talked about insomnia, we talked about anxiety, phobias, and all these things are kind of mind states where we are hyper aroused, where we're kind of like scared, we're threatened, we're like hyper vigilant, right? But the polarity of that is when we're hypo aroused, right? When we are depressed, when we're sad. And when we humans feel like depressed and sad, we tend to sleep a lot. We sleep like 9-10 hours. But do we feel refreshed? No, we feel tired and we don't feel well, right? So just another illustration of how like sleep is not the main determinant of how we feel during the day. And that's so helpful to know because then that leads us to less pressure and easier sleep.